In the opening shot of Flow, the film's central character, a little black cat, looks into a puddle at her own reflection and whines. She is alone. Yet, barely a second passes before we hear the pitter-patter of other animals in the forest. Birds chirping, a bunny hopping, then a pack of dogs barking before they come running past in pursuit of the bunny. Life is everywhere in this world. So, why is the cat alone? Something has happened to this planet. Our first sign that something's wrong is the absence of humans where humans should be. Empty homes, abandoned villages, man-made structures with no men in sight. Then there's the water. Before we see the rogue wave, we see all of the other animals running from it. A herd of deer, the pack of dogs that only a moment earlier was chasing the bunny. The setting the animals find themselves in takes precedent over any other dynamic that exists between them. Surviving each other is a priority, but their first priority is surviving this world. The rogue wave doesn't just come and go. It raises the water level in the forest, and that water level keeps rising throughout the movie, until near the end when it descends rapidly, revealing what is either an enormous sinkhole or a major crack along a fault line. This planet has suffered a devastating climate disaster, but we're never told exactly what is happening to the environment or what caused it. We only see how the animals survive it. From their perspective, the why doesn't matter. The cause died with the humans. The animals are just living in the aftermath. But this post-human world is as beautiful as it is dangerous. The wild intersects with the intentional as plant life overtakes what man-made structures remain. As the cat approaches an empty home, the yard is littered with statues in the cat's likeness, suggesting a relationship with a human that not only loved her, but adored her. There is one statue of the cat that is so enormous it borders on the surreal. It's possible an artist would engage in such a tribute to their cat, but I'm less interested in a literal interpretation of the statue than I am in an emotional one. The level of love and idolization the statue implies is not dissimilar to the experience of many beloved domestic cats. The tragedy for this cat is to have once been so loved, yet now be on her own. When the cat climbs the exterior of the home with practiced familiarity, she enters through a broken window and lies on an empty bed. We know without being told, this was her home she shared with her human. He or she was an artist or craftsperson, someone capable of honoring their love through sculpture. If you've ever brought a cat into your home, you know it's not an instant love fest. With some exceptions, cats take time. There's a common bit of advice in cat adoption called the 3-3-3 rule. Your average cat will need 3 days just to decompress in a new environment, 3 weeks to begin to settle in and learn your routines, and 3 months to feel fully at home and build trust with you. But some cats take longer than others. I've had foster cats, particularly kittens, who are much quicker to trust just because they don't have much life experience and they don't really have any other options. Their evolution is telling them they can't survive alone at that age, so they're practically begging for you to take care of them. But I've also brought semi-feral cats into my home who have taken a year or more to truly open up to me. Their eventual ability to experience and express love is no less than that of a cat raised from kittenhood. It's just harder to earn. The universal truth in cat rescue is that you have to meet cats where they are. So where is this little black cat when we first meet her? Well, she's not a naive kitten who will open up to you with a few quick pets, nor is she a feral cat accustomed to doing whatever it takes to survive. She's a cat who has known love, who has loved and been loved. And now she's alone. So the journey our little black cat takes in Flow isn't about learning to love. It's about trying to feel safe enough to love again. This video contains full spoilers for the movie Flow. The first potential friend the cat encounters is a dog, a Labrador Retriever. We've already seen this lab before as a member of the same pack that sought to hunt the bunny and the cat. The depiction of dogs in Flow is fascinating because they are very specific breeds. For those unaware, dog breeds don't exist naturally. All dogs are members of the same species, and the wild variations in physical appearance between a Doberman and a Chihuahua are 100% the result of human breeding. Without continuous human intervention, corgis, labs, poodles would cease to exist within only a few reproductive generations. So the fact that each member of the pack appears to be a distinct breed is another detail that helps us place the events of this movie as occurring within only a few years after the collapse of human civilization. So the dogs, like the cat, have been left behind by their humans. When we see them hunting fish, we're seeing them learn to live without their humans. Their first survival response, naturally, seems to have been to fall back onto a pack mentality. Most people know that dogs are pack animals, and the long-standing consensus is that cats are not. But anyone who's ever worked in cat rescue can tell you that's absolute BS. Cats aren't scientifically classified as pack animals just because they're capable of hunting on their own. Meanwhile, their popular misrepresentation as antisocial, in my opinion, stems from the human practice of removing single kittens from their litter at too young of an age, which stunts their social development. People also tend to misread cats as antisocial simply because they're comparing them to dogs, who are much quicker to trust, sometimes embracing literal strangers within seconds of meeting them. By that standard, all humans are antisocial as well. I've seen a lot of anecdotal evidence that cats are pack animals during my work in TNVR. It's the process in which you trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release feral cats. I've personally TNVR'd or supported TNVR efforts of hundreds of cats, and the overwhelming majority of feral cats I've ever encountered choose to live in communities or colonies with other cats. It's only the occasional unneutered feral male whose testosterone is driving overly competitive behavior who will sometimes go it alone, though even they often drift between colonies. The larger point here is that cats want love, connection, and community, but they need safety in order to have it. And this lab, whose pack previously chased the cat, is not immediately identifiable as safe. But seeing the lab separate from its pack allows us to see how he differs from them. He is more curious than aggressive, his posture and nonverbal communication suggesting friendliness. It's possible the lab lived with a cat in his old life, but it's also possible he just doesn't have the prey drive that his pack has. The cat is uncertain though, not scared, but cautious. When a cat is acclimating to your home, you're always supposed to give them a safe space to retreat to. This is mirrored in the scene where the cat climbs up onto the roof where the lab can't follow. If the water level hadn't continued to rise and the two of them had been allowed more time to interact safely in this context, I think the cat would have warmed up to the lab fairly quickly. But the water level does rise. And when an opportunity to escape the floodwaters comes along, the cat is willing to join the lab, but not the rest of his pack, who have done nothing to earn her trust. So she goes her own way, forsaking community for safety. We don't actually know the sex of the cat, so I'm just going to keep arbitrarily assigning her she/her pronouns for the sake of ease. Same goes for the rest of the animals, whose pronouns I will assign purely based on vibes. The next potential friend the cat encounters is a capybara. She doesn't get much of a say in this interaction, since her choice was jump into a passing boat or start swimming. And she only realizes the capybara is there once she's already on board. One of Flo's strong suits is its understanding of feline movements and behavior. The cat's defensive posture, crouching low, her tail tucked, her ears back, is hyper accurate. But the capybara does exactly what I do with every new foster I bring into my home. He just sits calmly in her company. He doesn't force interaction, he doesn't insist upon immediate progress, he just acknowledges her, then exists in the same space. The capybara's natural temperament is perfect for a cat's sense of safety and comfort, which is why the cat opens up to him more quickly than the lab, even choosing to venture into a small space and sleep beside the capybara over staying in the rain. Sleeping, eating, and grooming are all things cats won't do in your presence if they're afraid of you, so it's a sign of trust when they do. The cat's relationship with the capybara proves to be easy and companionable, but not necessarily emotionally deep. They don't communicate in the same way, and the capybara doesn't seem interested in affection or really much of anything from the cat. He's companionable but neutral. It's fascinating that we never see another cat in this movie. Clearly, the cat is not native to this region, as most cats aren't on our planet, but cats apparently weren't very common in this extinct culture either. So without humans or other cats, our little black cat has no choice but to seek her community in other animals. When the cat first sees the lemur, only his tail is visible, and it looks not unlike a cat's tail. Even when she realizes the lemur isn't a cat, The cat's more fascinated than scared by this similar creature. The lemur's behavior throughout the film is often human-like, which might also be comforting to the cat. The lemur and the others of his kind we encounter later are all deeply interested in the relics of the extinct humans. Objects like a mirror are of particularly high value. But their relationship to these objects doesn't exist in a vacuum. When we see the lemurs wearing necklaces, bracelets, and hats, it's clear that they have seen how humans use these relics and are imitating them. When we see the lemur meditating later in the film, it's yet another example of this mimicking behavior. But the lemur's imitation of humans ends there, and doesn't extend to the human race's interest in and love of cats. Much like the capybara, the lemur is neutral toward the cat. He doesn't view her as a threat, but neither does he want anything from her. So they too make for easy, if somewhat emotionally distant companions. I've complimented Flo's depiction of feline movements, and I think that the film has an incredible understanding of animal behavior, but the animals in the film are occasionally anthropomorphized. I'm not talking about lemurs imitating human behavior without understanding it. I think that's fairly realistic. I'm talking about the moments where the film gives the cat and the others greater ingenuity than their species would typically be capable of, such as the multi-step thinking required to navigate a boat, or at the film's climax, utilize a proper understanding of weights and balances. Flo is not a documentary, so I'm not holding it to that standard of accuracy. But I want to be clear that not every action taken by the animals in Flo is perfectly plausible, even though many are. One animal whose motivations and understanding are elusive is the whale. When we first encounter her, the cat is nearly drowning, and the whale, who is 1,000 times bigger than the cat, saves her. But there's no proving whether this was intentional or incidental, since given their size difference, the whale might not have even noticed the cat as she rose to the surface. But later in the film, when the whale helps dislodge a stuck boat, it's less incidental and more obviously intentional. I don't know enough about whales or this species of whale to know whether this is realistic or purely anthropomorphization, but it's an important exchange that the film revisits in its resolution to great emotional impact. But the cat's first meeting with the whale is interrupted by a secretary bird. No, I was not familiar with the name of that species either, but apparently that's what they're called. Much like the pack of dogs, the flock of secretary birds are a direct threat to the cat. They view her as prey, except for one. And when that one takes pity on the cat and tries to protect her from the leader of her flock, she pays dearly for it. If you hadn't realized it yet, what you've been watching happen in Flo is the formation of a found family. The cat, the capybara, and the lemur are all alone and without a family. Though we will see the lemur's family later, and he will be presented with an interesting choice. But for now, the decision of those three to coexist with each other and adopt each other as found family is one of only two options available to them. They can be alone or they can take a chance on each other. The secretary bird has a third option. She has a family, but perhaps one that is not right for her. I think her flock is an interesting depiction of an abusive family dynamic. Because even though the secretary bird who took sympathy on the cat was attacked and injured by the leader of her flock, she still tries to follow them as they fly off and is distraught when she can't keep up. She craves a family, even if it's toxic for her. This is how the film shows us that your community can be wrong for you. The value of found family lies not just in offering a family for those who don't have one, but also for those whose family isn't good for them. This is somewhat evidenced by the lab, whose temperament is more gentle than that of his pack, but it's really hammered home by the secretary birds. The most complex relationship in the movie is the one between the cat and the sympathetic secretary bird. When she joins the found family, the cat is immediately trusting of her, seeking her out, staying near her, and even attempting to emulate her, because she's proven herself as safe. The cat knows she's safe with her, so she is free to pursue what she really wants, love and community. But the secretary bird is not capable of expressing love in the way that the cat's human would have. She shows love through service, taking charge of the found family's safety and guiding their boat. So the cat responds in kind, demonstrating her love through service as well, by bringing her fish. But the secretary bird won't eat. When she chose to stand up to the leader of her flock, she was making a bigger decision than we, or maybe even she, understood at the time. And the cat doesn't understand it until she follows the secretary bird to the top of a great pyre. This is a beautiful scene, but we aren't told what is literally happening. When the secretary bird ascends into the sky, I interpret it as a symbol of ascending into the afterlife. On the literal end, perhaps this civilization carved these steps to the top of the pyre for this explicit purpose, but on the figurative end, and the interpretation I prefer, this may just be how the cat experiences the death of the secretary bird, as if she is more connected to the spiritual plane than we are as humans. So what we see when the secretary bird passes away is how it feels to the cat in that moment, an ascension. The film is constantly towing the tonal line between tragedy and inspiration. I think this scene is our Rosetta Stone to understanding that tone. We're not meant to lament the death and loss because the cat does not. She misses those she's lost, her human and now the secretary bird, but her understanding of those losses is as an ascension, and a beautiful one. They've left this world and thus are safe from it. And with that absolute safety comes the ability to experience absolute love. Later in the film, after the water has rescinded, the whale, who saved the cat not once but twice, is stranded on land. She is dying, and there's nothing the cat can do for her but keep her company. In her few sporadic appearances throughout the film, the whale has been portrayed almost as a force of nature, a feature of the environment, rather than another animal being forced to survive it. But here we see that that was never the case. Despite their incredible differences, she and the cat are in the same predicament, and as they stare into each other's eyes, they reach an invisible understanding. Unlike the death of the secretary bird, this time we don't see what the cat sees. We only see the literal event. But the film has taught us how to interpret this scene, not as tragedy, but as a beautiful ascension. When the lab returns to the film, he has again been separated from his pack, and this time he sticks with the cat, joining her and her newfound family. Much like the secretary bird, the lab already has a family, yet it doesn't seem to be the right fit for him. If it wasn't obvious by his repeated separation from them, he's also repeatedly portrayed as friendlier and less aggressive than his pack. These differences are really cemented when his two worlds collide, and his found family saves his pack from being stranded. For a second, we and the animals entertain the idea of melding the two families, but the pack is not like the lab. They're inconsiderate, greedy, and threatening. The combination of the two families is unstable and causes the found family to break apart. In the film's climax and the lead up to it, both the lab and the lemur must choose between a family of their own kind or their found family. For the lab, it's an easier decision. He has been at odds with his pack from the start, a better fit in temperament and communication style with his found family than his pack. But the lemur's decision is more interesting. When he reunites with his family, we see a community of lemurs who seemingly treat him well and with whom he fits in, as they share a similar interest in human relics. But his choice comes down to need. Where is he of greater value? Which family needs him more? We see his answer when he leaves behind his lemur community and leads the cat to a boat where the capybara, the lab, and the rest of the dog pack are in terrible danger. Together, the cat, the lemur, and the lab, with little help from the pack, save the capybara. The film ends with the four of them together, looking into a puddle, just as the cat did at the beginning of the film. Only this time, there are four reflections looking back at her. She has found a family. If you can't tell by the way I talk about it, I adore this film. But I'm biased, not just toward cats, but toward the film's philosophy and the concept of found family. I think community is a necessary aspect of not only literal survival, but emotional survival. Despite the way our culture can sometimes exalt rugged individualism, there is nothing admirable to me about going it alone. The sad truth Flo reminds us of is that this world will absolutely go on without us. What matters are the relationships we build along the way, the people and animals we share this planet with. That's where the meaning comes from: community, connection, and love. But community can be harmful without that love and connection. Community is not an inherent good. That's why found family stories appeal to me so much, because they're in line with my lived experience of the world. For many of us, the family we choose is often more rewarding, despite sometimes being the harder earned. Simba, the orange cat in the intro to this video, was separated from his mother and litter mates at way too young of an age. He didn't have time to learn how to play without taking it too far, or how to accept love without turning around and biting the hand that offered it. Literally, I've been bitten by him twice, so hard I have scars, and have had to take antibiotics to ward off infections both times. The family that found him as a kitten gave him up for the same reason. That's 2 families he's lost, if you're keeping count. When we took him in, we had to meet him where he was. It's taken a long time to earn his trust and even longer to learn his communication. He still takes his anger out on me sometimes, like he's afraid to love too freely because those he loved before eventually left. I don't know if he remembers his mother, but I know some part of him remembers needing her and not having her. Because sometimes he'll cry for me to hold him in my arms, and he'll nurse the bearded stubble on my neck like it's a surrogate mama cat's belly. I love him, and I know he loves me. He just doesn't always know how to live with that feeling. To love is to be vulnerable, and vulnerability is hard when you've been hurt before. That's why found family stories are so powerful. To accept someone as family is a choice that comes at the end of a long journey, but that only makes it all the more meaningful and worthwhile. If you want more videos about movies, storytelling, or cats, I'd love for you to subscribe. And if you have the room in your heart and in your life, I'd strongly suggest opening up your home to those who would benefit most from a safe place to sleep and a companion they can trust. Remember, adopt, don't shop.